Hello everyone, it's AD from Astrology, and I'm going to be doing your pick a card reading. And today we are going to be looking at what do people find fascinating about you? What makes people genuinely curious and interested and get to know you? So shout out to my little sister. She really helped me come up with this, guys. Please do not hesitate to drop, a suggestion that you like to see in the comment section. I'm really here for them. I support them. I encourage them because it'd be hard out here trying to rack my brain about what I can do that's entertaining and also fulfilling. So if you have anything that you'd like to share with us, then please let me know. But other than that, yeah, we're going to be looking into what do people find attractive about you? Or not, I guess not attractive, what fascinating, but normally if you're fascinated with something, there is a sense of attraction there, So we're going to be looking at regular tarot, and then we're going to look at the 18 plus cards. So this is going to be a little bit of an 18 plus reading, guys. I want to spice it up, make it a little bit fun. But I hope to hit all angles and levels, guys. So this is pile number 1, pile number 2, pile number 3, pile number 4. So please take a moment to meditate, see what Yu-Gi-Oh card speaks to you, and I will meet you over at your piles. I am super duper uber excited to do this reading, guys. So let me know what you think. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate your support from the bottom of my heart. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and play cleanup and get everything to where we need to be, and we can get started, okay? So, hello everyone, it's AD with Astrology, and I am doing your pick a card reading, and this reading is for what do people find fascinating about you? I'm trying to I feel like that's a mouthful, but why are people interested in you? What kind of sparks their interest in you? And what do they want to get to know about you? So let's see. So of course I already picked a lot of cards out because I went to do 4 piles, so this was a pretty diverse reading. So I already pre-picked the cards, but we are going to start off with some astrology, guys, and just see where we're starting. But yeah, this is a beautiful card. I don't know if you guys can see it clearly, and I don't want to pick it up because of the focus, but it's like this 3-headed dragon. But I really love the color. I love this, if you can tell, we almost match. But I really like this magenta, this beautiful color. And so there is a sense of, I guess it's not even magenta. It seems very fuchsia, actually. But, fuchsia, a fusion. So, there's a soft side of you, but then there's this really fiery part of you, too. It feels like a mix between pink and red. And so I imagine that there's a lot of femininity that you carry and a lot of grace that you carry just based on this color alone. But there's a fierceness. And I do feel like, I don't know, I'm hearing a lot of Gemini energy, especially with the different heads. You're able to play different roles. You're kind of able to shapeshift. You think a lot. I imagine that their intellect is very, very high. You're probably very smart, very intelligent. Maybe even actress or something that causes you to kind of put on different masks. But let's get into your reading. That's kind of what I'm getting from this really beautifully striking card. So other things too is there might be something strikingly beautiful about you. It could be your skin tone, your eyes, your hair. There's something that people find fascinating about you look-wise too. So I'm getting that also. So let's go ahead and look and get into it. I'm excited. Pile number 1. Some astrology cards, please. What do people find fascinating about pile number 1? Excuse me, Libra, I balance. Yeah, so I really do think pile 1, you're actually a traditionally attractive, symmetrical person. That's nice. That should be celebrated with Venus energy represented here. So I do think that people find your looks fascinating. There's something about the way that you dress, the way you carry yourself. And like I said, I feel like it's a strong presence, but it's not dominant. You just kind of have an aura about you. People just fascinating with you. You look good. And I think that when you do speak, you say intelligent things that people are curious about, especially with the Libra. That's a balancing act. It's a very logical mind. So I do think that you're also celebrated for your mind. So there's definitely some air qualities here too. And I'm also hearing ethereal. So there's something very ethereal about you, pile 1, that people also find fascinating. Woo. And so we got 2. 8th house. I saw this sneak out. So 8th house, scorpionic energy, high sex appeal, and again, attractive. There's something sexy about you, the way that you move. I don't even think that it's anything that you do or an energy that you put out on purpose or anything. I just think it's who you are. And there's also a deep mystique. People feel like there's a lot to get to know about you. The surface of you is one thing, but who you are, that other side of you, people are genuinely curious in that pile number 1. And so they're fascinated with you because they think that you have stuff to hide. you know, and then again, a fire breathing dragon. Like, I think that people feel that as if you're kind of a quiet storm. And I do want to say too, especially with the Libra, I feel like maybe you're pretty mild tempered, or you try to stay, you know, pretty grounded, pretty balanced. And so people are fascinated by you just to see what makes you tick, like what does get under your skin, what does make you angry. Because I think that a part of you seems really cool and kind of aloof, especially with the Libra energy here. So that's pretty fascinating. Then we have the Sun spirit. So I really do imagine that you know how to take up a room in a sense too. So this is Leo energy here. So a lot of you guys, maybe you have something fascinating about your hair. You have long hair, you have loud hair, you have a different texture of hair. But I think that people notice that about you. And I do think that you shine bright. There is something here. I don't know if you see it, especially with this 8th house sun. You might not see like the light that you are. You probably are pretty hard on yourself, or maybe don't see yourself in this light. But other people are genuinely fascinated and intrigued by you. And I think that you have a lot of energy, and they think that you have a lot of spirit. We have Mars represented here, but I know this is a sun and that the sun is not Mars, but I get Mars here too. So there's something very fiery about you, even with the dragon. Grand trine, blessings. So I do think that people are also fascinated with your comeback game. So you could have gone through some things, or there could be things in your life that people are surprised that you've gone through. But it seems like with the 8th house endings and beginnings, you're constantly able to rise again. And I'm even being drawn to, I didn't even notice this, but this pharaoh here. So again, the 8th house, mummified or something. There could be a connection to Egypt here for some of you, even Ra, the sun god. So some of you might have like a connection to Egypt, or you just carry a very like queenly, or a, you know, it doesn't have to be queenly. It could be a pharaoh-y. But you carry an air about you that does scream royalty. Even with the sun card here, there is something, again, not only ethereal, but also very royal and regal about you. And you seem very, very blessed. And I think that people would be surprised at the secrets or the trials and tribulations that you've had in your life, or the feeling or the deep emotional capacity that you do have, because I don't think that you show it. I think that you're a very classy person. I think that people really don't know what you're thinking. And that fascinates them about you. But they're also curious about, how did you get where you are? You know, what's your story? And then finally, we have part of fortune increase. So people also think that you are very, very blessed. Even the 2nd house Taurus energy down here. So I think that you have a lot of nice things. Maybe you don't feel that way, but you either dress well, you drive nice cars, like you just have nice things. I feel like you've been very spoiled and blessed by the universe, Pile 1. And so people are fascinated by that, because it's just like, how did that person get that? You know, and you might not feel this way, but I think if you looked around, for a majority of you, of course it won't be for everyone, but you know, you have nice things. You've been treated pretty nicely by life when it comes to material, even with Libra, interesting here. So I would say that you do, Pile 1, have to fall into the trap, or be aware of the trap of people just, you know, wanting to be your friend because of things that you have, because people do notice that you do have money, or not even money, but you do have nice things. The other half of that is people can misjudge you and think that you are bougie, or think that you're better than everybody else because you have nice things, and I don't think that I don't think that that's true, actually. I think that you're probably pretty humble. I just think through karma, past life, and all this other stuff, you just have a fortunate inheritance. Some of you guys come from, like, what another thing that people find fascinating about you is 8th house does represent inheritances. So I do imagine that you could have like parents who've done some pretty cool stuff. Like you're like a descendant of royalty. Your ancestors are royal. And people might not be able to put their finger on that. Even with the, you know, even if we get into Game of Thrones with the dragon, Khaleesi's, the Targaryen blood, you know, I feel like there's some really cool blood that you have that's pumping through your veins, that you just carry with you. It's this legacy. And so, I do think that life has treated you well. Again, if that doesn't apply, I'm not trying to rub it in, but I can, from this configuration here, it really does look like people are super fascinated by your family, because I do feel like your family holds a lot of importance, and you get things from your family, and people are fascinated by that. That's not to say that you're not, like I said, that's not to say that you're not beautiful, that you're not a king or queen, pharaoh in the making. I think that you have your own incredible things to offer to this world, but it seems like people notice kind of everything that you come from, and you know, they notice what's around you and what established you, and they're curious about that. And then the deeper that they get to know you, they find out, wow, all the stuff that you have, the nice boots, the nice bags, the nice clothes that you have is really like the least interesting thing about you, and you're so much deeper than that. But I feel like it takes a long time for people to process, because people do first and foremost see that you are a very fortunate person in life, and there's nothing wrong with that or to be ashamed of it. So funny. So I picked one major arcana card, and you got the Empress. So Taurus, Venus energy again. So if you are not very fortunate in life, then this might not be your pile, because I just imagine that this is like the pile where blessings fall out of the sky for you. Doesn't mean that you're not in sticky situations. Doesn't mean that you haven't had money problems or issues in the past, but they seem to work themselves out. I do imagine that pile number one, again, people feel like they are in the presence of royalty when they're around you. With the Empress here, you command a certain type of energy. I do think that people see you as very abundant. People see you as very blessed. And for what it's worth, I think that people see you as really generous and compromising when they get to know you. I think that there's blockages here because of the Scorpio energy. People have trouble kind of putting a pin on what it is about you. But the people who are just like, oh, I'm speaking to somebody important. Oh, I'm speaking to a legacy. Oh, I'm speaking to a lifeline. This is somebody that I need that's important. This is somebody that knows how to manifest. Again, it can be tricky because then you don't want people to use you because of these gifts that you have. But you do carry a certain type of energy, pile one, that requires a level of respect and dignity. Even if you're young, I think you just ooze this out. And again, you have, your parents could be in powerful places. Your family, your ancestors could have been in powerful places. I do think that you're a direct descendant from Egyptian pharaohs, goddess, and all that good stuff. If that resonates with you, but absolutely the Empress here. So again, just your power of manifestation and just kind of how spirit has treated you. And you're sexy as hell. I think you're beautiful. Like I said before, I think you're also good looking on top of all this. I feel like you're a person who people are like, ugh, this person just has it all. How do they have it all? And I think that the answer should be like freaking good karma, you know? So let's move into the tarot. We got 3 cards, the 7 of Wands. What do people find fascinating about you? The 2 of Cups and the 2 of Wands. So very interesting. Again, I think that people do feel that you are hard to get to know, or you're hard to get in contact with. You're hard to reach. There's something that is inaccessible about you, but I feel like it's in the way that like Rihanna has bodyguards. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like people feel like they have to go through hoops in order to touch you, in order to like get to know you, in order to have a conversation with you. The other thing that people find fascinating about you is that I do think that you always have options, or you're always like on the move. Again, we have these two, we have 2 twos here, and even with the 2 wands, it gets to that the double-headed dragon. Where I think that you always have your head somewhere else. I'm picking up on that Gemini energy, even though it hasn't come out specifically. I still kind of get that Gemini energy where it's just like your head is always somewhere else. You're always 1 foot on the ground, but then you're always 1 foot elsewhere. Like there's something very dreamy and again, ethereal about you. Also could have some Pisces energy coming through also. But I do think that people are also fascinated by the way that people are so protective of you and how protective you are of other people, especially with that Leo energy. Oh man, and the Leo Scorpio, that is royalty again. Leo Scorpio, if you have that combination in your chart, that's a sign of royalty, just so you know. Anyways, or 5th house, 8th house, depending on how you're looking at it. All right, regardless. I do feel like people are also fascinated with, again, how protective people are you in the relationships, and how you can really get people very passionate on your behalf. Like, I feel like people feel the need to genuinely protect you, and there's people who have crossed you or said something wrong about you in the past, and you might not even know this, but if somebody was just like, oh man, that girl, she's a little weird, there would be somebody who's just like, don't say that about them. Like, they're awesome. They are really great. Like, there are people who will definitely go to bat for you, who you might not even know. But people are not able to speak ill of you and get away with that, or not come with facts and receipts. So I think that you have a very defensive and protective group of people who admire and love you, and people find that fascinating. Like, nobody defends me. When people say crazy shit about me, they're like, cheers to that. I don't think that that happens. And again, on the flip side, I think when it comes to your relationships, when it comes to people that you care about, you are very fierce in protecting them. You will go to bat for them. You will fight. You will kill. It doesn't matter. If somebody wrongs anybody that you're with, you're always like, I'm here for you. And I think that that's super cool. And there's a loyalty here. Again, we have a lot of Mars, wand energy. So there's a lot of Mars. I think that there's something feisty about you too. And even with this, at the same token, it's interesting to have like these juxtaposing energies, to have the Two of Cups in the middle, because as guarded and defensive as you can be, and as, hot-headed as you can be, I think that you're always trying to get to the middle of things with Libra energy here. You're always trying to solve things. I think that another thing that is very fascinating with you is how diplomatic you are and how good you are at hearing both sides of the story. I think that you're very level-headed, my pile number one people. Even if you don't feel like that all the time, that's okay. But for the most part, you seem very level-headed, and you feel like you listen to all sides of the story before you make a decision. And I think that people find you very thoughtful with the Two of Wands here. They really appreciate what you think and how you view the world. And I think that you have very unique perspectives on the world, and you're willing to defend those beliefs, but you're also willing to hear other people's beliefs. So you're a very complex individual, my pile number one people. And I think that that in and of itself is extremely fascinating, because you're very different, but you're okay meeting people where they're at. You're okay being the middle person between this world and the next. It's funny that I said that. Some of you guys, might have talents to speaking with dead people. But I feel like you're a great negotiator just in general. So yeah, very fierce, very fierce. So now we're moving into the 18 plus card. So let's go ahead and get into that. So the Empress again. So really queenly energy. That's spectacular. I love it. Very fertile, very abundant, just backing up. People really want to protect you, and people are fascinated by who you are, and they want to get to know you deeper, and again, feel the need to defend you. We have the 9 of Swords and the 8 of Wands. Excuse me. So what do other people find fascinating about you? I think that I just heard oh my gosh, One Direction, you don't know you're beautiful. I think that people are fascinated with the idea that you don't think, I don't know if you necessarily think these things of yourself naturally, because as beautiful as you are, as kind as you are, as blessed as you are, I don't think that that's in the forefront of who you are. I think that those are all just things that you've come from, especially if you have like a family of, of cool people, then you're just like next in line. It doesn't really faze you. All these things are just kind of expected for you. And I don't think that that's out of ungratefulness at all. I just think that you are an empress. And you're a queen and you're a ruler. And so these are things that you acquired through multiple lifetimes in order to get this. So you don't think about it. But people wouldn't realize just how critical you are of yourself. They find it very fascinating that you don't think of yourself as like this bougie, sedity, better than everybody, nose in the air type individual. You're actually probably pretty critical of yourself. I wouldn't go as far to say that you're super insecure. And the reason I say, you can disagree with me, but the reason why I say that is because there's too much Empress energy here for like true insecurity. There might be things that you wish that you could be better on, but I don't necessarily sense a lack of confidence or a lack of grace. I just kind of sense you honestly have, you don't value yourself enough. I think that you're just like, I'm cute. Yeah, my body's okay. Like, I can wear clothes. It is what it is. I don't think that you make it a defining thing about who you are, but in the shallow, chauvinistic kind of, imagery world that we live in, you have a lot of the great ingredients to be a beautiful Instagram model, whatever. And it doesn't matter what size, it doesn't matter what you look like. I just think that you have a certain air about you that is really beautiful, on the inside and out. And I don't think that you give yourself enough credit. And people are very fascinated about that because they just assume. I feel like a lot of people just assume that you think that you're better than everybody else and you walk around with your nose in the air, and that's just not true. The other thing that people definitely find fascinating about you is how traveled you are, how well traveled you are. And if you aren't well traveled yet, you will be well traveled with the 8 of Wands and 2 of Wands here. Excuse me. Like I said, there's something about you that's constantly on the go. You're constantly looking for the next thing. You're constantly looking for the next, I wanted to say high, but I don't want, it doesn't have to be drugs. But I just imagine that there's something very inquisitive and exploratory about you. I'm also picking up on really strong Sagittarius energy, Jupiter energy. Oh yeah, and we got Grand Trine's blessing and the even increase. So there is Jupiter that's very present in your chart too. But I think that you're always on the go. People always think that you're like at a distance. Even if you're with them, they feel like you're at a distance. And they're always fascinated about how you're able to keep a distance in intimate relationships. And that might be another conversation for another day. That's a whole nother reading. But I do think for the most part, people find you very fascinating. And also, again, how, I didn't really go in on this, but this just made me think, this combination right here. I do think that something that's really interesting about you is you probably could go through a lot of relationships, but you don't get into relationships very easily. You don't connect to people very easily because, again, you're so defensive of yourself. And I don't think that people are on your level. So it's very hard for you to connect, or it has been very hard for you to connect. So maybe that's why this reading, you're like, maybe. But I just think it's because you haven't been in environments where you've been able to be celebrated quite yet. But once you step into that sphere of your life, you'll be extremely celebrated. 2 Empress cards is nothing to play with. So, there's you have it. You got it. That's not a question. It's just a matter about getting to that part of your life. But people find that super interesting too, that you are pretty guarded when it comes to relationships. I don't even think that you really truly settle for a long time. If you're older, then I think that it's, it takes you a long time between relationships, because I don't think that you're ever like really settled in a relationship. Because there's a fierce independence here with 2 Empress cards here. But yeah, it's pretty interesting. People feel the need to take care of you. I think that you feel the need to take care of other people that you really care about. And yeah, people find it so interesting that you don't understand like how beautiful you are. So that's really funny. That wasn't what I was expecting, but that's really, really interesting. So let's keep going. So now we're moving on to the Lenormand, or it's French, so I'm not saying it, I don't want to embarrass myself. But yeah, so we even got the Child in Clover. So there's something very innocent about you, but again, also very lucky. I think people, Child, Empress, I think that, you seem like there's something very maternal about you. I don't know if people recognize it as maternal, depending especially how old you are, but there's something very nurturing and motherly about you that people are very much fascinated by. I think I don't know, I'm getting strong Cancerian energy too. So like Cancer, Taurus, let's say Scorpio, Pisces, Sagittarius, Libra. I mean, it's a lot of signs, but you know how your chart hits, guys. But yeah, there's something very lucky, and I think that there's something extremely innocent about you, and there goes the defensiveness. There's something very innocent about you that people are extremely fascinated by, because I don't think that you look like you have to be innocent. Like if you want to get in trouble, you could absolutely get into trouble. It's kind of what I'm getting, and people find that really fascinating. But again, yeah, people just see you as like a breath of fresh air, and extremely lucky and fortunate. Like people feel like things just really work out for you. Again, I just feel like that could be limiting, like, because then it just becomes like, well, when do people know that I do have stresses and that like it doesn't work? Like, how do people support me in that way? And that's probably where the 9 of Swords comes from. So I feel like that can be kind of annoying, but it's just not to add on to the problem pile one, but I am going to kind of add on to the problem. Things do work out for you. So they're not wrong. Like you could be stressed as they come, but at the end of the day, that spiritually you're going to be taken care of, and you always are. So don't try to get fault in people for knowing that, like, hey, you're going to be fine. You're always fine. You always land on both of your feet. Like, don't worry about it. That might be like, man, nobody's listening to me. Pay a therapist who has to listen to you. Don't expect it from your friends, or don't expect it from your colleagues, because you actually are extremely blessed and fortunate. They're not going to be able to support you. Hence why people are fascinated that you even have insecurities, because everything seems to work out for you. Very annoying. I get it. I see where that could be an issue. I probably relate and understand, but it's in your cards. So, you got to learn how to deal with it and get around it. And then we got Retreat. It's time for you to disconnect from the world. So like I said, you're always doing something. You're always away. You're always off. There's always something really not more interesting, but from the lay eye, it seems like, there's always something really interesting going on in your life, and you're always doing something super fun. And it's, so we got let there be closeness between you, but always give each other space. Love never claims, it simply allows and gives. So I think that the other thing that people find super fascinating about you, especially in this day and age, Pal One, is you are actually capable of setting healthy boundaries when a lot of people in this day and age are not. And so I think that that really plays a role into how people are like fascinated with you, because you're just like, dang, like you really know how to set boundaries. Now, again, I do think that it can hurt you if you end up going too, you know what I'm saying? There's always a delicate balance, hence the Libra. That could be like one of your life's journeys to figure out that balance between the two things. But certainly, Pal number one, you allow people the freedom to be themselves as long as people allow you to be yourself, and people really love that. You know, you're always able to find a compromise. You're always able to find a middle ground when it comes to relationships and people that you truly care about. I think that you're very giving and you're very generous in your relationships, and people find that absolutely fascinating, and you're stunning and beautiful. So that's nice too. So that is what I got for you, Pal One. Please let me know if this dropped, if this made any sense to you. So if you're a Pal Oneer, throw like a cherry in the comment section or something. I don't know. I just got like an image of a cherry, so you can use a little cherry emoji if you like to engage. But yeah, that's kind of what I got for you, Pal One. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. If you'd like to book a personal reading with me, then please shoot me an email. Be patient when I respond back to emails. I usually do it like on a weekly basis. So if you don't hear from me like tomorrow, then you'll hear from me top of next week. But yeah, so that's what I got for you. Follow me on TikTok and Instagram. Thank you so much, guys. Peace until next time. Woo! That's awesome. But yeah, Pal Ones, drop a cherry. Drop a cherry for me in the comment section. All right. So we can now, what do we, this always happens where I never know where to put the cards. Okay. Figured it out. And I got bit on my freaking wrist. I'm struggling. Give me a second. Pile number two, people. Give me 2 seconds. Everything's crashing and burning. Okay, I'm back. Alrighty. Hello, Pile number two. It is AD with Cosmic Astrology, and I'm going to be doing your pick a card reading. And today we are looking at what do people find fascinating about you. Pile one was very interesting. I really enjoyed this reading. So it should be fun. So let's get into it. This is if you pick pile number two, the Memories of Hope spell card. So people are really fascinated about you, pile number two, right off the rip, because I think they're spellbound. There's something very magical about you, and I do feel like you're either in a past life connection or you deal with people that you have to clear past life karma from. So you might find yourself in very karmic relationships, my pile number two people, just because that Memories of Hope. Like it feels like you're replaying out karmas, you're replaying out love stories that you've experienced before, very strongly coming in. But yeah, just imagine that when people come into contact with you, it's very witchy, you know, they're just like, huh, like, how did you know that? Like, it's very spellbinding. Nina Simone, I put a spell on you because you're mine. Okay. I'm not gonna upset Miss Simone's ghost, okay? So let's go ahead and look at your astrology cards, guys. Please keep in mind that I do subscribe to Vedic, so placements could be different. Energies should read about the same, but again, this is just a general overview, so it really shouldn't matter too much. So we got first house, the body. Woo! So some of you guys might really have a nice body or really beautiful curves. There's something very, again, striking about you when you enter a room. You could be very tall. Some of you are taller than average. Others of you could be shorter than average. But again, there's something about your physical body that people are very awestruck by. And it could be that you're extremely active. We have Aries energy here too. Or you are like red. There could, like, you have like a red undertone, red hair, reddish, greenish, you know, green eyes. Like there could be something red about you. Let's keep going. Air communicating. And your voice. So I'm also getting that there might be something here about your your voice and your body that like don't match. So you might be like very tall and then have like a very light voice. Excuse me, or you're very small and you're like Christina Aguilera and you have pipes. Like, I feel like there's something very fascinating about the dynamic between your body and how you communicate. I also think Aquarius, Libra, Gemini, some of you just have a pleasant voice in general. Others of you, it's just like your thoughts, how you think things through, your logical mind, how you're able to debate. You're a very logical person and people find that fascinating. You might do something in IT work. You might do something with computers or in the sciences, more of the STEM, math, and people find that fascinating. Or especially if I'm speaking to my masculines, you might be really, really good at like football, basketball, something athletic, tennis, rugby, I don't know, soccer, that's a big one. But I feel like you also have a talent, like you think things through, like you're not dummy, you're more than bronze. Like there's something about your brain, your mind, how you communicate, and your body that people wouldn't normally put together. Third house, a lot of Gemini energy coming through too. So I think that you're an excellent person to talk to. Some of you guys, if you're not on a podcast or on the airwaves, or you don't have something where you're sharing your voice or expressing your thoughts in an artistic, creative way, you definitely should think about doing that. Or you already do, and people find that fascinating about you. And then we have moon, soul. Ooh, very interesting. So for some of you guys, I'm really getting that your moon sign. So here's a very specific chart. Your moon could be in the first house and your rising could be in an air sign. So you're very unpredictable if that's the case. Again, that your chart doesn't have to be that specific, but I wouldn't be surprised if you pick that. If like an Aquarius rising, moon in the first or something like that. Anyways, getting off my nerdy tangent. I really do feel like there's something very phasey about you and kind of unpredictable, and people are very fascinated about that, particularly if you have an air moon, regardless of which house it's in. If you have an air moon, a moon in Aquarius, moon in Libra, moon in Gemini, moon in the third house, moon in the seventh house, moon in the 11th house. I'm trying to give you all these options. Then I do think that there's an inherent detachment from your emotions, and people find that freaking wild. Like, I just feel like, I was watching this thing, that other kick, where it's just like, I'm not like the other girls meme, but I think that you are not like the other girls and you're not like the other boys, for sure. That's why people are so fascinated with how you think things through, because I don't think that you're a super emotionally driven person. I think that you're extremely logical, and so people have to meet with you on a logical basis in order to get to know you, and people are fascinated by that because not everybody possesses that. It's awkward. It's a very awkward position if you have your moon in an air house or in an air sign. Because most people function on intuition, all that stuff, but when your intuition comes from logic, people are like, what? It's not the same. It doesn't feel the same. So there's a real detachment. But I think because there's a detachment from your emotions, you're able to really engage in like these super awesome, cool conversations that people find fascinating. Like, you could honestly be into aliens, you're into witchcraft, you're into spell work, like you're just into some weird shiz, and people are like, what? This person's fascinating. And I do think, for what it's worth, with the first house, the body, the difference between you and other people, pile number 2, I would say, is that you're not afraid to wear it. You're not afraid to be different. Like, you're just like, maybe you were younger when you were younger, or maybe you're still working through this, but I imagine that Spirit is encouraging you to be yourself. The more that you're yourself, and again, I do think that you're unpredictable. I do think that you're probably erratic. I do think that you might be all over the place, my pal. 2 people, I'm not letting you off the hook, but I think that you should just accept that as like your quirky self, and wear it and work and learn how to work with it, opposed to morph into something else. Your greatest gift is your ability to communicate. So when you're feeling moody, because I think that you're extremely moody with this, when you're feeling moody or you're feeling disconnected in some way, Spirit is saying to check in with yourself and see how you can kind of communicate that with others, so people can be a part of your thought process, because I think it's very difficult. I think even you're probably like the only person who understands your thought process. But there is a process. There's a method to the madness. Like, you're not just a Looney Tune. Like, there's a lot, and I think that you're genius level, vibration. Your mind you're a wizard when it comes to that, but people don't always understand that. And then water element sensing. So We have Pisces, Cancer, Scorpio represented here. So again, Cancer. So you're emotional, but you're not. That's fascinating. You're very logical, but at the same time, you can break down in tears over like a movie. You know, it just depends. And I think that people find that very fascinating. I will say, and I don't mean to trigger anybody here, but this definitely feels, and I'm not diagnosing anybody here, but I would not be surprised if there were labels of like mental instability, like if you had labels of like bipolar disorder, schizophrenia. I dug myself into this hole, so I'm just gonna keep digging. Like I'm dedicated to the shovel. I think that there is a conversation worth having in the spiritual community and the scientific community, and the mental health community about merging those two things. Like, what is bipolar disorder? What is schizophrenia? I happen to think that it is a spiritual phenomenon that needs attention, that can take attention in some ways. But I think that it's more of a spiritual phenomenon than we give it credit for. So I'm saying that, like, in your life, it could be labeled as this thing. I know, and I'm Black, so in our community, we don't really get diagnosed with bipolar disorder. Like, we do, you know, it runs in my family, it's diagnosed in my family, so it's not that it doesn't happen, but we don't really talk about it like that. But with this configuration of cards, I can see if at times you could be labeled that, or you could have thought that you were, or, you know, whatever. I just don't necessarily believe in the label itself. I believe that it's something that we all can be off kilter. You know, we all can possess imbalances. But I will say, because your mind and your soul and your feelings can be at odds, it can seem very erratic. It can seem very snappy, but it's not. Like, everything that you do is logical. Like, if you were to have, I'll use myself for an example, and maybe I'm giving too much information here, but it's just like, I've had mental breakdowns before. I have. 1,000%. But I could walk you through everything that led me to that snapping moment. You know, like, I was a part of it every which way. And then I'm like, when I snap, then I'm like, you know, then it's, oh, what's going on? You're crazy. You know, all that stuff. But I'm just like, look, this has been a long time coming. I've been feeling this way. I knew it was coming, you know. So it's one of those things where I think that a bigger conversation that we need to have just in society in general. And sorry, Pal2, that I'm filling you with this, but I think maybe you need to hear it. I think our conversation about mental health has to change. But regardless, people find this fascinating about you, that you kind of are off the rails in extent. And I don't mean that in a derogatory term. I just mean that, like, you're very passionate and you're very logical in your logic, but people consider it illogical, but it's just extreme logic, you know? Yeah, I think we get it. Hopefully we're on the same page, guys. So let's go ahead and move into the rest of your reading. But very fascinating, very strong start. Very interesting people. All right, so I picked a grand, or a, what is this? The major arcana cards, excuse me. And you got the Death card. And so, yes, very scorpionic energy represented here. And that's why you're constantly in this death, rebirth. Because I do feel like I said, it just gives me, it's very powerful. You have a very powerful energy that people find fascinating about you. But I do think that you've had to, like, rise up and down like the phoenix. Like, you're constantly, like, you know, the snake biting itself. Like, you're constantly, like, learning new lessons. You're constantly evolving. And in order to do that, I think that you have been through the ringer, risen up. And so this change, again, I feel like, as I stated to start with, this is very karmic. So people just feel like you have a lot of karma. That's not inherently bad or good. Karma means it's like lessons, right? That's inherently what karma is. This is what you got to learn. This is how you have to pay this off. So you're very wise, but I think that you've encountered in this time, in this lifetime and in your last lifetimes, a lot of debt. You've incurred a lot of debt. When it comes to relationships, when it comes to people, when it comes to fitting in my opinion, and mainstreaming into society in a fluid way, because you're so on a different level, you're so on a different vibration. Like, and I know some people might hate this comparison, but I'm throwing it out there. This feels very Kanye West, who is a moon in Aquarius, Michael Jackson, moon in Aquarius, Prince, moon in Aquarius, they're geniuses, but they were on the fringes of society for one reason or another. And it was because, like, you know, people didn't understand them. They seemed erratic. People couldn't keep up. So you might identify with some of those people. Again, that's Vedic astrology that I'm quoting on. But all three of those artists have Moon in Aquarius. And it just goes to show how revolutionary they have been in their industry and how progressive they've all been in their industry, and yet how they have been misunderstood at one point or another. You know, even Prince, he's the reason we have the explicit label on our damn record listen, you know, on our records now. That's all because of Prince, you know. So talk about being misunderstood. So anyways, I get that energy here, even though we're that's Aquarius, but we're talking about Scorpio and even these two snakes. There's always lessons for you to learn. You're constantly learning different things and evolving. And so again, people feel that from you. People are very fascinated about that side of you, because I do think that you keep, as much as interesting and lively as your conversations are, I do think that there's a side of you that is extremely mysterious and always going to be hidden. So you talk a good game for sure, my pile number 3 people. You know, you have Gemini rising, any of that stuff. And so people don't realize just how deep thinking you actually are, and how much of you're really good at like shallow kind of conversation, but then you're really awesome at like really deep philosophical, psychological questions too. People find that fascinating. Let's keep going. So we got the Judgment card. Yeah, I just heard Nicki Minaj, you see right through me. How do you do that? So I really feel like you see right through people. People feel like, oh my gosh, is this person peering into my soul? How do they know that? So that's really interesting. And the 5 of Wands and the Princess of Pentacles. So again, we have like this Mars energy with the 5 of Wands here. So there definitely has been like fighting. You've had to overcome. I think people definitely see you as very strong. And it's funny because this came out in pile number 1, but in a different way, where I do think that people feel very protective of you when they get to know you on a deeper level. When people truly get to know you, they really see you as like a very sweet, innocent, and just a person who's just trying to get by. Not that you don't have like extremely ambitious goals, pile number 2. I do imagine that you could be an ambitious person. You have dreams, but at the end of the day, like there's a little girl, there's a little boy who just wants to be like loved. And I think that that's what people are fascinated by, because they're like, wow, you have all this other stuff happening. You have all these things. You're constantly doing this. You have a lot of energy, but yet when it's time for you to chill and just sit down, you really just want somebody to sit down and talk to and have a nice night with the Princess of Pentacles here. I don't feel like you have a lot of airs. I do think that people are also fascinated with your judgment skills and how you will defend your opinions to the death. Like people are very fascinated about that. Once you believe something, my pile number 2 people, you don't back down for shiz. You don't back down for no one. And I get that with that first house. You must have some placements in your first house that allow you to kind of just bulldoze through things. Like there's a strong Aries kind of energy here too, where you're just like, I'm gonna go do it. I don't feel like you take no for an answer. I feel like you keep reinventing yourself, you know. And if you've had friends that you've had for a long time, pile number 2, they'll watch you you know, on the floor crying. They'll watch you be like, I'm done, I'm giving up. And then they'll watch you like a phoenix reinvent yourself and come back even stronger. And they're like, how the freak did you do that? You always managed to land on your feet. And I think that this has made you a very scrappy individual with the Princess of Pentacles, my pile number 2 people, because you've had to learn how to survive with little. You do quite a lot of people, you invoke a lot of jealousy in other people and a lot of competition in other people. I don't know if you necessarily do it on purpose. I just think that the way you carry yourself, especially with Judgment to the 5 of Wands, your presence makes people aware of their shortcomings, and that's very scary. So I've imagined that you could have gone through a lot of different friendships, relationships, people where all of a sudden you're like, cool, and then all of a sudden they turn on you and you're just like, you had a problem with me? I thought that we were friends. And they can't tell you what the problem is. You can't tell them what the problem is. It's just that you've highlighted things within themselves. Again, that past life energy. Wow, that's so funny. It's coming back. You've highlighted things within themselves that they wish that they could change or fix. I think the cool thing about it is like you tell people, or you get this energy off that people are fascinated by, that like, listen, you can come from anything, but it's up to you to fight that and build a life for yourself. I think that you are a real success story. I think that you're a real person who's had to overcome obstacles, and I think that you're an inspiration. But I also don't think that you let people off the hook very easily. So just like I said in pile 1, and I'm happy to say in pile 2, you're a very complicated and complex person. So people are just genuinely fascinated by you because of the complexities that you are, and kind of like the contradictions that you are, but also the fighter that you are and the spirit that you have. It's like there's a stubborn and a tenacity about you that you're going to go all the way. You don't half-ass anything, my pile number 2 people, and people love that about you. But at the same time, they're very intimidated about it because most people are not like that. Most people do not have that same intensity that you have. So in addition to like being kind of like this erratic kind of manic pixie dream girl in a sense, you're also like this very tenacious kind of Nefertiti, Cleopatra, like down for war type woman, you know. So you're, or man, I'm sorry to limit it to women if you're a man here, but like you definitely carry that energy here where like you can come off one way as kind of flighty, kind of all over the place, kind of moody, but at the same time, once you commit to something, that's it, and you're going to see it through. So that's really fascinating, and people are really, there's something here about your education. Like you could be very educated, highly educated. People find that intimidating. So yeah, there's a lot that people, you know, you're very intimidating. Even though I don't think that you want to, you just give off a very specific, strong energy. So let's keep going. So now we're moving to the 18 plus part. So this is the Wheel of Fortune here. We have the King of Pentacles, and then we have the Initiator, which is also the Hierophant. So picking up on a lot of earthy energy, obviously with the Hierophant, King of Pentacles. But I said that too, there's a stability that you have and your instability. And I think that people find that super fascinating because at the same time, I think that you're comfortable in your own skin. You're comfortable in your own being and essence. And people, again, are intimidated by that. But I think that you're also an entrepreneur. I think that you're also somebody who is, very invested in making money, very invested in your material world. Nothing wrong with that. But you're constantly trying to better and improve yourself. You're constantly learning new things. I don't think that you ever stop learning things. I don't think that you're ever satisfied with where you are. There's something very ambitious about your energy. My pile number 2 people. And so people are very fascinated by that because you're never settled. Like, and you might be a millionaire, but you're just like, I could be a billionaire. Like you're always looking for the next thing. And even with the Time card, which is also the Wheel of Fortune, there's something here about, I don't know, maybe you age backwards. I got to, it's just like you look better with age. I feel like you're aging in reverse. So the older that you get, you're aging like wine, the finer that you get. And even if you're young watching this, then that's just a heads up to you to be like, listen, where you are now in your youth, you're not going to be when you're older. You're going to be somebody who is very much established, very much well taken care of by yourself, by your family. You're not going to have to worry about finances in the way that other people have to worry about finances. So if that's something that you've been afraid of, don't worry about it. You're going to be able to get that. Slow and steady wins the race. Pile number 2, you're definitely going to be somebody who has financial edge and who's able to support and care for themselves. People find that fascinating. It's just a matter of time. That will be changing, particularly if you've had issues and instances with your finances in particular where you've been down. That will change, absolutely. It's just a matter of time. But I do think that there's something about your dedication. You know, you didn't get the sexiest cards. Doesn't mean that you're not sexy at all. I think that your ambition is sexy, and I think that you're beautiful. I just think that people see past that with you. And I mean that in a good way. That's not in like a, oh, you're ugly duckling anything. I just think that you're so much more than your outer appearance, especially with this Death card. You're your inner thoughts. You're your actual soul, your actual being. You know, people see your soul. Your outer is just kind of like whatever. It's very nice. 2 Venus cards. You got the King of Pentacles here, the Taurus, Hierophant, here, that's Venetian. So I know that you're beautiful. That's not what we're here to talk about. I think that you probably know that. You know that you're attractive. I think that you're way more focused on your money, your finances, and your resources. And so that is going to come in for you, absolutely, pal, too. And so people are fascinated by just the way, particularly if you've had bad money experiences, you're able to get out of them. You're able to strategize and get out of them. And people, again, find that to be a source of insecurity. You spark a lot of insecurity in other people, pile 2. Sorry about it, but I do get like this mirror kind of reflection energy that we saw with that memories of hopes. So you do have a lot of karmic relationships that you encounter, that you have to fight through. So I feel like you're letting go of a lot of karma in this lifetime. So let's go ahead and move into your Lenormand, so we got the Coffin, and again, more death, more endings, and then the birds. So again, it's funny because the birds can represent like a commitment, a relationship of some sort. But I do imagine that you've experienced a lot of endings in a lot of relationships. People find that fascinating because I think that you're a wonderful person. But people are like really curious about like your relationships. Be like, how did they end? Like if I was with you, I don't know why I wouldn't stay with you. And I think it's genuinely because you're a very complex person and you're just like, man, you're only looking at the surface of it. If you only knew what went on through my brain when the experiences that I've had, then you wouldn't be so quick to question why I spend so much time on my own, But I think that that's a part of your magic. People don't realize everything that you've been through. I don't think that you wear your trauma on your sleeve. I think that, people have to genuinely get to know you to understand what you've been through. And again, you're just the symbol of death and rebirth. So funny, this popped up in pile 1, so maybe you watched both piles, but we got the pharaoh imagery here too, so there could be a connection to Egyptian and like Egypt and royalty. So that could be something, even with the sun, I don't know why. No, the sun wasn't here, my bad, that was in the pile 1. But again, I just imagine that like the other thing that people find fascinating about you too is you shut down the haters. People say things about you, my pal number 2, people gossip about you because, again, there's a lot of competition, there's a lot of jealousy. But when people actually meet you and get to know you, you're so different than what they've been told. And people are like, shiz, how did I miss that? Why did this person say this about this person? So I feel like with the Coffin, you shut down this gossip. You shut down people, the haters, like just because of who you are. People project all these things onto you, but that's not an accurate indication of who you are. And I think that that's very interesting and fascinating to other people. So let's keep going. Worth waiting for. Divine timing is at work in your love life. So the angels are opening up. Again, the worth waiting for. Your lifetime has required a lot of patience. And I think that this worth waiting for was what I was talking about with the Taurus energy, with the money, with the relationships, especially if you're young. I feel like as you get older, as you age, you're going to be able to grow into yourself in a very cool way. My pile number 2. I'm also getting a lot of Capricorn energy in a sense. So it just feels like life gets better. Life gets easier for you the older that you get. And it's worth waiting for the finish line. So if I'm talking to anybody who's young, 20s, listen, don't peg your life to what it's supposed to be right now. You're not supposed to live like this. You're supposed to have abundance. You're going to have money in the bank. You're not going to have to worry about swiping your card. It's all going to come together and work out. So your life, your divine mission is worth waiting for. But it's very clear that you have karma that you were meant to clear out before this happened when it comes to your relationships. And that's really interesting. And then finally, we have acceptance is the key to inner peace. At times, we must accept things as they are. There's no point in trying to change, which is beyond our control. So very interesting card to pick up on. It's so funny. These seem to be more of advice cards than like tying up the reading, if that makes sense. So I do think that there is an acceptance that you have, a level of acceptance that needs to happen, particularly if you're already in one of those really like karmic relationships, be it if you label a twin flame, just a soulmate connection, accept your role, accept that this is karmic, accept that you and this other person definitely, you and friendships. I don't even want to limit it to just one person because I feel like this is something that you've encountered. You owe it. You guys owe these people something and these people owe you something, even if it's just a lesson to like, don't trust everybody that you meet, or not everybody is your best friend, or, any of that stuff. I think once you're able to accept kind of the mission that your soul is on when it comes to your relationships and how they either break down or encourage you, inspire you to do something else. You're just supposed to take it for what it is. I think that especially with all this Taurus kind of fixed energy that I'm picking up, and even the Scorpio, excuse me, I didn't even mention that, you know, these are opposite energies. We got Scorpio and then we have Taurus. Both of those signs are about possession. Taurus being, you know, outer possession, Scorpio being like inner possession, inner wants and passions, you know, be it for Scorpio, stereotypically like revenge. For Taurus, it would be like, I want, you know, to try every food in Las Vegas. But they all are about consumption in some way. So I do think that another thing that you're learning in this lifetime, my pile number 2 is to really learn how to let go, let people go. And I think that that's inherently fascinating, because like, how do you do that when we're told to make connections and make them last forever? Your connections aren't always meant to last forever. You will have one later, but it seems like at the first chapters of your life, they're a little rocky, you know, it's constant reinvention. And that's okay. So really fascinating reading, pile number 2. Please let me know if this resonated. If it resonated, I feel like you should drop a little witch in the comment section for me, because like I said, you're very spellbinding. Like, people are very mesmerized by you, but you're so much deeper than that, you know. You're so much deeper than what than what people think and what meets the eye. And I think that you always know that. You always are aware of that, but people are really fascinated when they find that out about you. So that's what I got for you, pile number 2. So thank you so much for joining me. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Again, let me know what you thought of this. Drop a witch in the comment section if this made sense to you. And if you'd like to book a personal reading with me, you can follow me. You can shoot me an email. And like I said, follow me on Instagram and TikTok. And that's what I got for you guys. Peace. Until next time. Thank you so much. I could not remember what I was trying to say. Let's see. This has been a really fascinating reading. I'm really happy that we did it. Shout out to my little sister. Came up with a really great reading. Coffee, coffee, coffee. All right, pile number 3. Alrighty. Hello to all my pile number 3 people. Welcome to Astrology. I am AD, and I'm going to be doing your pick a card reading, guys. So today we are looking at what do people find fascinating about you. And to be honest, I've been fascinating with the 2 piles. I'm really excited about this reading. So I'm excited to see what comes up for pile 3. So we are definitely starting off with the terrifying toddler of torment. Interesting. It's like a little devil baby. And I got a sneak peek. One of the cards flipped up while I was pre-shuffling. So I'm curious, and it was the devil. I guess, spoiler alert, it was the devil card. So I'm really fascinated to see this devil energy play out in your reading. Because the devil energy, we see it as like bad. You know, it normally gets like this bad rap, right? Because it's the devil. But the devil's a lot of things. Handsome as the devil. Devil's very sexy. Devil's very tempting. Devil puts you in situations, you know, spellbinding, you know, put you in situations that forces you to overcome. So you might actually have like a lot of Capricorn energy in your chart. And again, there's nothing inherently evil about the devil, but it's so fascinating to pop up in a what is fascinating about you reading. People could see you and be like, oh, she's the devil. Oh, he's the devil. And that might sound like an insult, but I guess I'll... This might be TMI. I've really been sharing a lot in this little reading, guys, so it's kind of funny. But, you know, there's this one guy that I'm like madly in love with, and we, you know, we're having some fun, and he was really good at something, like really, really talented with something. And I was like, I asked my girlfriends, I said, have you known anybody to be this talented at this specific thing? And my girlfriends were like, oh, he's the devil. Leave him alone immediately, you know? Like, it was the type to drive you crazy. So that is kind of what I'm getting right now, pile number 3. Like, you are able to drive people crazy because you're so good at things that maybe people, you know, aren't typically good at. So let's keep going. We'll see if that pops up, guys. We're going to start with astrology cards. Please keep in mind that I do subscribe to Vedic, so the placements could be a little different, but the energy should read about the same. So for pile 3, what do people find fascinating about our pile 3 people? Ooh, Earth, stability. Capricorn, Taurus, Virgo. So there's a very earthy vibe to you, and I think that that's really cool. There's something very grounding and wholesome about you, which I think is like half the trap of you, and we'll see. Because, and the reason why I say trap, not because I think that that's a negative thing, but I think people feel so comfortable with you so quickly, they're like, am I supposed to like be with this person forever? Or they're like scared. Like I feel like they get scared at the stability, because you are so straightforward and you are headed in the right direction. People find that fascinating because you are super stable. I don't think that you are all, we'll look, but for the most part, you're pretty stable. And that fascinates people because the world is unstable right now. So how are you able to keep your head above water when everybody else seems to be drowning? That's fascinating. Yeah, destiny. And like I got that shooting thing. I feel like, yeah, very strong Capricorn energy for my pile number 3 people. Very strong Capricorn energy. I feel like you, pile 3, like I know what I'm going to do. I know what I'm working towards, and I'm not going to stray from that path. And that can also be the devil's energy, because the devil makes you feel as if you don't have options, whereas the lovers is the opposite of that, where you feel like you have all the options. So I feel like you don't feel, I feel like you feel like you don't have a lot of options in this world. It could be because like you're just so focused on this ambition and you're like, I'm going to make this work. I don't think that it's a, oh, I don't have any options in this world, I'm only good at 2 things. You're like, no, I'm really good at this thing and I'm going to make this work. So there's a very intense kind of energy that I get from you, pile number 3, that a lot of people find very off-putting. You might have been attracted to pile number 2 also, because I'm kind of getting that same energy. Yeah, fire element, desire. Woo. What I said, desire. I love that word for you. Like I said, you're just very tempting. People are very like tempted to touch you, grab you, want to be around you. They want to get to know you. I feel like you just draw people in. So we got the fire element, desire, for sure. And that is Aries. Why am I struggling? Aries, Sagittarius, Leo. So there's also something very big about you, and you shine. You know, I think that you shine a lot, my pile number 3 people. But at the same time, you don't go off course. Like your Little Red Riding Hood, you went to your grandma's house and you dropped off them damn cookies. You weren't listening to no Wolf. You're like, Wolf, I got a delivery to make. Oh my gosh, there was a so funny TikTok about Michael Myers. It was like a spoof on Michael Myers. Oh, it is so funny. I wish that their TikTok was easier to like access and show you, but the entire time he's just talking about how he gets stuff done, and he sounds like such a Capricorn. And if you've seen that and you know what I'm talking about, then that's what it feels like. He was like, they asked me, how am I always able to kill people so fast? Work ethic. You know, I just feel like you're like that. It's a spoof, guys, but it's really funny, if you know what I'm talking about. And then we got Mercury, mind. So Virgo and Gemini energy represented here. You take in a lot of information at one time. I think that you're very focused. Like I said, you're very intense. You're very focused. You know, you are parkour hardcore. I don't think that you are for the weak-minded individuals. I think that you inspire people to kind of move forward, but at the same time, you don't care if they were inspired or not. You're not afraid to leave people in the dust if they're not helping you. You know, and people could label that as wrong, be like, you only use me. You know, I'll say this because I have a lot of Capricorn in my chart, and then with Vedic astrology, there's a D9 chart, and it's like, it's called your Navamsha or a D9 chart, and it's like a really solid focus into who you are even more than your natal chart. It's hard to explain, but you kind of hit it after your Saturn return and after you get married, so it kind of shows who you age into, but also who you are deep down. Anyways, I really challenge you to look it up. It's a very great tool, but I moved to be a double Capricorn. And so I have a lot of Capricorn energy, you know, and so I read up a lot about Capricorn energy. Excuse me. I'm like, why am I, excuse me, guys. Whew, okay. So I'm like, why am I telling you this story? I'm telling you this because my Capricorn energy is very misunderstood. When people hear like, oh, if they're no longer serving you, then get rid of them. People are like, well, why would you? You know, that's so mean. Particularly about Venus and Capricorn, where you really date people who are established and who have to have money because you always think long term. You know, people are just like, oh, you're shallow because you don't want to be with somebody who's broke. For a Capricorn, it's so much deeper than that. Capricorns, represented by the devil in tarot, they understand that money makes the world go round more than any other sign. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're just like, money makes the world go round. There is nothing that I can build without money that's going to be long term that I'm not going to be able to thrive in. So I'm going to set myself up with the best people possible. If that means that I have to wait before, you know, I get into a relationship with somebody, if that means that I have to wait until my partner finally, you know, is a doctor or whatever, then I'll do that. But I'm not going to settle for anything less because that's unrealistic. There are people who argue and say that that is not a good trait, but there's people who can argue back and be like, what would I do with somebody broke? What would I do with somebody who's not helping me fulfill my dream? Like, what would I do with somebody like that? It's not that I can't love somebody who's not able to provide for me in that way. And with Capricorns too, they will definitely help and support others, but it's very misunderstood. So I'm just breaking this down to be like, if this doesn't resonate with you and you don't think like this, then this might not be your pile, because this is a very serious pile who is kind of like over the, you would not date somebody because they're cute and because like they have nice hair. You would date them because they have a 401k plan and they can really, you know, talk about how to clear up your finances, you know, and all the other stuff. That turns you on more than somebody who can, you know, again, like has pretty eyes or something like that, you know, if you possess a lot of this Capricornian energy. So that's really fascinating. And you have fifth house creativity. So I do think that you're probably an artist, or you're very multi-talented. You can do a lot of different things. There's a lot of passion that you have. I think that you're a passionate person in general. It could be when you talk, it could be what you do. You're expressive. And I think that this really shows, I feel like your sacral chakra is very, what's the word I'm looking for? It's very activated or very open, where your creativity and your sex drive, they come from the same chakra, guys. And so I feel like you have a very strong command over that particular chakra, where like you're very creative, you're very expressive, you're very passionate, which also tends to make you a good lover. And so I think that there's that, like you put voodoo, people are like, you put voodoo on me. But I think that it oozes out of your pores in all levels of the word. Even, and it's so funny because even though people might take you as flighty or all over the place, or you have a lot of hands in your pots, people fail to recognize just how serious and grounded and earthy you are and how determined you are to get to your destination. So just like my pile number 1 and 2, you're an extremely complex person, pile 3. And people are fascinated by that because it's just like you're all over the place, you're doing stuff, you're constantly moving and grooving, but yet you've been very, very consistent with who you are and who you plan to be in this world, and you've been putting and conserving a lot of your energy towards producing that. And that's, you know, something, again, I'm biased, but that's something to be admirable. It's something to be admired. And I think that people really think that that's super fascinating, because a lot of people give up, a lot of people don't continue to pursue, but you're in it for the long haul. Even though you've heard no's, you just feel like it's your destiny. I feel like you're somebody who, pile number 3, you're very sure that you're on a divine purpose and you're working towards that purpose and you're not straying. Like I said, you're a little Red Riding Hood who went straight to Granny's house and dropped off them cookies. You didn't care. You didn't care what was in your midst, okay? So let's go ahead and move into your tarot cards. So yeah, this was a spoiler alert, plot twist, the devil. This was the only card that I saw when I was pre-shuffling, but again, it bounced off the baby so well. So I don't have to go and rehash it, but you get what I'm saying. Like, there's a lot of power. And I think that something that is very interesting about you and fascinating about you, my pile number 3 people, is you could work business. Like, you could have a very active 10th house is what I'm hearing too. If you don't have Capricorn, you could just have a very full 10th house. I have a stellium in my 10th house. And so you're constantly building, you're very ambitious. And I think just because you are ambitious, you are going to get, you feel like that failure is just not an option for you. Like you just do not see failure in the cards. You don't care how many times you hear no, you're going to keep doing it until you hear yes. Even if it's the 1,000th time, you're going to try. And I think that people are really encouraged by that. But at the same time, again, they're very intimidated by that level of discipline. That's the other thing about the devil. It's discipline. And so you do require a lot of discipline. Yeah, so we got the Knight of Pentacles. People find fascinating about you. Perhaps you're an entrepreneur. You're working on your own. But again, it's the slow and steady wins the race. Very earthy. You have extremely earthy vibes. 9 of Wands in the middle. Not surprised to see it. And the 3 of Pentacles. So you're kind of like a blend of pile 1 and pile 2, pile 3, which is super fascinating. That happens all the time, you know. But it really feels like you are very strong on your own, and you know that, and you're comfortable in that. You're like, I'm strong enough on my own. I know that I can hold my own in the grand scheme of things. And it's because you're so focused, right, on what it is that you're trying to create and produce for yourself. The other end of it is like, I think whatever it is that you do requires a level of collaboration. It requires multiple cooks in the kitchen in order for it to get it done, be it that you, especially if you work in the arts. I mean, if you're doing a song, if you're doing music, if you're doing theater, film, you know, there's a lot of hands that go in on deck. But it does feel like you are in a space of leadership. Also, people find fascinating that you take command, but I feel like you're not very loud about it. You're a leader, but you don't necessarily vie for leadership roles. You just end up in leadership positions, if that makes sense. Like I said, you're ambitious, but you're also very efficient. I think that you're you take care of business. When you are ready to do something, your work ethic is unparalleled, and people are fascinated by that, and again, intimidated by that, because they're just like, dang, I don't work that way. I don't work at that pace. How could I keep up? But I just think it's just because you, again, discipline. You believe in getting it done. It's the work ethic for you. You're not going to stop until it's perfected, you know, until you're done. And even with the Knight of Pentacles, that's Virgo energy here. So you're extremely detail oriented. You're also perfectionist. And I think that you're all about the fantasy, the illusion. So people really don't see you slipping. I don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I know this sounds really crazy, but another way too is I feel like if you were to become famous or whatever, my pile 3 people, or you were to get any type of celebrity, people would give credit to the devil for your work. Like, you would definitely be like, oh, it's the Illuminati. Like, I feel like you're one of those people who would just attract that type of stuff, but it's just like, no, it is not the Illuminati. I didn't sell my soul. I worked hard. You know, you would be very insulted by that. But you are a person who is going to carry a lot of status. And even though you don't come in to be the owner of the business, just because you're so efficient and just because your work ethic is so savvy, people are inspired and encouraged to put you in leadership roles. And I think that you're a great collaborator, and I think that you're really awesome with, what do I want to say? Like passing out roles, you're delegating. You're really good at delegating certain roles to certain people, and you understand what people bring to the table. I think that's something that is really cool. I don't know. People who, it's so interesting because, like, I feel like people find you fascinating in general, pile 1. I'm at 3, excuse me. There's some people who just find you fascinating simply because they want to get in your pants. That's point blank, period. And that's something, you know. It's not good or bad. I'm just here to say they just want to get in your pants. But the people who see you deeper than that, they see that you are a person who recognizes every individual piece is a part of the whole, and they respect the heck out of you for it. You are the type of person to understand that if you're on set, you're like, the busboy is equally as important as the head chef. That turned into a restaurant. I thought I was going theater, turned into a restaurant. But you're just like, if the busboy is not scrubbing those dishes, then the head chef's meals won't matter because it will never be served on any plate. And you understand that. So you are the type of person to go be like, busboy, thank you so much. You are the backbone. Without you, we wouldn't be able to make it that far. And I think that you carry that type of energy with you as you delegate, that you give everybody the same equal amount of attention. I don't think that you are very, it's funny because even though you strive for status yourself, pile 3, and you want to be recognized for what it is that you bring, like, you know, I'm sorry if I'm harping on this Capricorn and you don't have Capricorn, but I would be very surprised if you didn't and you picked this pile. It feels like you are very much like you want your status, you want your credit, you want your recognition, but you're not moved by other people's. You're not moved by other people's status and recognition. You're just like, whatever. I need to see what work they produce. Anybody can be handed a title. What do you bring to the table? Again, you're a very, very hard person to impress. Pile number 3. It takes a long time for people to win you over because you are like, I need to see proven time and time again. It's so funny because I have a new friend and like he's really cool or whatever, but he always is just like he refers to me. He's like, good morning, Black Queen. Good morning, Queen. Good morning, Queen. And I told him today, I was just like, you know, I'm far from a queen. Like I don't feel like a queen. And he was just like, what do you mean? Like we were all born kings and queens and all this other stuff. And I just don't believe that. Personally, I'm just like, I'm not a queen until I have an empire. I'm not a queen until I'm ruling. You know what I'm saying? Until I have stuff. Like I think that Rihanna is a queen right now. When Rihanna was singing Pondy Replay and all the other stuff, I think that she was still a page, right? You know, just as far as she's evolved. And so those titles, queen, king, I don't sling those out. I understand why we do, particularly in the Black community. I understand the importance of us building and striving and understanding that we come from kings and queens and that we are descendants of royalty because of the way that we've been shat on in this country. I completely understand that. At the same time, I'm not calling no queen somebody just because they just sit on their ass all day and be Black. That's not good enough for me. It's not good enough for myself, you know? And I told him, I was just like, you call me princess. Because in princess implies that you can take care of me. Do you understand what I'm saying? You can help me on my journey. I'm okay being called the princess right now, but I'm far from a queen. And so, again, this is my projection onto these cards, but I'm getting this energy from you that like you might feel that same way too, where the title is whatever. What you really want is the work. You're all about consistency. You're all about production. You're all about efficiency. You're a great leader. You're a great ruler. And I think that you're sexy, handsome as F, you know what I'm saying? I think that you bring a lot of value to the table, and people who only see you as a sex object are truly missing out on somebody who really is about their bag. And like I said, I always use Rihanna as an example. Again, there are people who just see Rihanna and just want to sleep with her. They just think that she's beautiful and that's it. But the people who have been able to really track, excuse me, this girl from Barbados who has become a billionaire. Come on now, you got to respect her. Her looks become secondary. Her beauty, her sex appeal is secondary to what she was able to bring to the table. And I feel like you're definitely like that. My pile number 3, people. If you're not, cool. Pick another pile, or maybe this reading isn't for you. But just so much pinnacle energy. You're so focused and you're not going to be taken off course. I feel like you do not allow distractions either with the 9 of Wands in the middle of the deck. You're just like, I will not be distracted. And people find that fascinating because people love to be distracted. Meanwhile, I think you're like, I am the distraction, okay? If I'm in your life, you're not going to be able to focus and concentrate. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think you're like, I am the distraction. I am the temptation. So you don't get tempted. That's really funny. So now we're moving on into the 18 plus side of the reading. So here we're starting off with the 5 of Swords. I promise you I didn't see it. The Devil card. That is so funny. Oh my gosh. That is hilarious. And then the Chariot. So I'm speaking, I mean, here we are. That's so funny. But handsome as the devil. I think that it's really you are the alluring part of the devil. If the devil was like some ugly creep, he would not nearly be as successful as he is, you know? It's like the devil works hard, but Capricorns work harder, you know? So I imagine that you carry that energy about you. People are fascinated. So again, we harped on that a lot, but Spirit is just reaffirming. that we're on to something there. So with the Five of Swords, I do, again, it's so funny to see the imagery here. Notice how this person was on the outside looking in. But I really feel like this is a fantasy. I feel like people are, that's such an interesting, and we would have like this mirror card here, or the mirror right there. I feel like people, oh, excuse me, this is the Five of Wands. Okay, it's not the Five of Swords. I saw the swords there, got confused. It's the Five of Wands. Whew, all right. So people feel very competitive against you. Again, this same cards that popped out in earlier piles. But you're a challenge. You're truly a challenge, pile 3, to people. You're a challenge sexually. You're a challenge business-wise. You really confuse the heck out of people. And that's not a bad thing at all, but people just do not know where they stand with you, and you challenge people to rise and be better. I imagine that there's people, when they encounter you, they're different from after the relationship. I don't think that anybody who spends a significant amount of time to you, you affect them. You make them think about the world in a different way. And you do have like a lingering pull on people, and perhaps people have a lingering pull on you, so you have to be very careful about your energy. But I imagine that there's a lot of people who feel like they're on the outside looking in, or you've left a lot of people in the dust. And I think it's because you're so focused on your journey. You're so driven with the Chariot card. You're not willing to stop or take a break because you're so ambitious. And I think that people just kind of see you frolicking through the field, and it just feels like on to the next person, on to the next person. Some of you guys, I feel like your love life could be pretty erratic. You might have, no judgment here, but it just helps flesh out the story. I feel like some of you guys might have really high numbers or really low numbers. Like either you've been very exploratory when it comes to your sexual desires, especially if you have a Mars in a fire place or a Mars in an air place. I feel like you've definitely had a lot of exploration, hence why you're so talented. You know, with the earlier story, you're so talented at things that people shouldn't be talented at, shouldn't be. Or you've been managed to really keep your numbers extremely low. And both of them, if you're a person who has more of a higher number, you've had a lot of sexual exploration and all that other stuff, you are not tied to any sexual partner. You don't understand? Like, you're just like, well, you can go. I don't need to be wrapped up around you. Like, if either we're gonna get here, get this nut, and be on your way because I got work to do, or you're a person who really values. Not that I don't want to make it seem like it's either or, but if you're a person whose numbers are very low, then you're just kind of like, I really don't even waste time to even begin to even waste time to let somebody enter my body. So it just depends on kind of like your Mars placements, honestly, because I imagine that you're either two extremes. But either way, the conclusion is the same. You're not tripping on nobody. You don't trip on people. If relationships are meant to be in the past, you're just gonna keep it moving. That doesn't bother you, because at the same time, you have this extreme sex appeal, pile 3. So it's not hard for you to lure more people into your world. For sure. I keep feeling like I'm seeing somebody out my window, but I'm not. I'm just like going crazy. Anyways, then we have the Chariot card, which is interesting enough, this is Cancer. So we got Capricorn and then Cancer, which are contradictions, hence the Five of Wands. So it's one of those things where people really find fascinating that as strict and disciplined as you are, I think that you're very nurturing. I don't think, again, this is the last card that we got through in the spread. So I think that it takes a lot for people to see just how nurturing and how truly feminine, because Capricorn's a feminine energy too, but you're an extremely feminine energy, and people find a lot of comfort in that after a while, after the desire wears off, after the passion wears. I don't think it ever wears off completely, but once they're able to kind of get out of the frenzy that is meeting you, at the end of it, they see a really caring, nurturing person who's willing to work and compromise and build together. They see somebody who is going to commit and who is going to make sure that they challenge themselves to be the best person that they can be, and that they challenge others. They see somebody who is long-term commitment material. They see somebody who they want to encourage and who's going to encourage them. I just think that it takes a hell of a lot to get there. because of the quote devil energy that's here. People misread it. Again, people will say it's Illuminati when really it's just hard work and discipline. And I think that that's a disservice to people and to the energy that you harness, but it protects you because you should be protected with the 9 of Wands here, because people do try to take and manipulate. And I imagine that you probably encountered a shit ton of issues, especially with the double Capricorn that we have here. You know, that's Saturn. So you might have Saturn very prominent in your chart. So that's a lot of karma. That's a lot of, you know, heartaches, banging your head up against walls. So this extreme discipline and the extreme work ethic that you have, it didn't just fall out of the sky, right? It was earned. You had to really work for the things that you have. And I think that in that, people really start seeing a really caring, kind, considerate, and thoughtful person. And people are very fascinated by that, because normally people who are extremely ambitious are kind of painted as being very cold. But I don't think that I think that you're extremely warm and very loving, especially with the fire here. Very nurturing. You have the capabilities to be a spectacular mom, a spectacular father, a spectacular provider. But there are people who on the outside looking in who just think that you're just the worst, you know, because you don't take shit from anybody. You just don't. So that's really, really fascinating to kind of start off, to end with my pile number 3. So very strong Capricorn energy though. And you're very, very focused and you're very determined. And you stick up for yourself. There's a lot of people who are jealous of you. There's a lot of people who've tried to bring you down, but you've managed to keep going. And at the same time, you've learned to protect yourself, but you're also still willing to let people into your world and learn. I just think that you're very slow to open up to people authentically. Again, even if you have sex with them, you're just like, just because I had sex with you does not mean that you know me. It doesn't mean that you know me at all. So, all right, let's move into your Lenormand. So you have the house and the man. So it's so funny. So we got like the man of the house, you know. But again, this plays back into the Cancer energy. And I don't necessarily think that you are the man in the house. Even if you are the woman, you might obviously just provide more. You might be, you know, have more money than your partners. There's nothing wrong with that. But I just think it's because, you know, it's a dog eat dog world. So you're going to defend yourself at all costs. That's the other thing too. Like you definitely, there's, it's not bad, but there's an inherent selfishness with you, not in a bad way, but it's just like, you know, you got to you will look to make sure that you preserve yourself in a situation. Like you're like, hey, we might be friends, but sign this contract. You know, like you were going to preserve as much as you can of yourself just because you've been through all the traps and tricks. So you're less likely to get caught up in shenanigans, is, you know, how that's hitting. But yeah, I just imagine that even if you, depending on where you are, either you're the man of the house or you let people be the man of the house, because again, you're open to collaboration. So I imagine that like you're just very welcoming, you're very open, and you know how to take the reins of a situation. And again, there's a very homey and loving feeling to you once people really get to know you and open up. They feel very welcome. You're a very welcoming energy and an inviting energy after they get past their initial intimidation factors. But that's on them. It's not a reflection of you, it's a reflection of them. And I think that you understand that more than anyone. And perhaps you even see it as a test where you're just like, I'm not even going to be like, until you show me something worth seeing, then you can forget it. So that's so funny. And then we got passion. Allow your heart and soul to sing with joy. So that passion, that's why I said spirit is not letting me off the hook when it comes to how sexy and how magnetic you are and the passion that you ignite in other people. People want to tear you down. That is not a question. Pile number 3. It's not a question at all. Again, handsome, slick, beautiful as the devil. That is you. And again, you really follow your passions and you incite passion in other people, and people find that absolutely fascinating. And then finally, we got manifesting miracles. Your dream is soon to become reality. Trust your heart and continue to follow its guidance. So I think that this is just kind of like a different one-off. I don't know if it directly correlates to the reading. It could, but I really get that whatever it is, pile 3, that you've been manifesting for yourself in your Capricornian way, whatever it is that you want in the world, your 10th house, I feel like is about to be activated. So there are partnerships that are about to come in for you. There's passion that's about to be invoked for you, particularly if you've been really stuck in the working energy and you haven't really been able to enjoy the fruits of your labor. I do think that whatever it is that you've been manifesting for yourself, this is a confirmation that it's going to be happening and it's going to be coming in. Because you could be going through dry spells. You could have been through a really dry spell, you know, just because I feel like you've been so focused on your journey, so focused on your stability, making money and all that other stuff, that maybe perhaps it's time to shake it up. So yeah, that is absolutely what I got for you, pile number 3. This was awesome. Please drop a little devil emoji in the comment section if this resonated with you guys. I would appreciate that. But yeah, I see a little purple devil, guys, for you. So thank you guys so much for joining me. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. If you'd like to book a personal reading with me, you can check out that information in the description box below. Follow me on TikTok and Instagram, guys. Thank you so much. Peace until next time. All right. And last but not least, we got pile number 4. I was like, I wanted to do a 4th pile just because I felt like people, you know, were so unique and different. So I want to give as many options as I could. A little bit more coffee and let's get into it. Hello, hello, hello. Last but not least, hello. Last but not least, we're here with pile number 4. I am AD with Astrology, and we are going to be doing your pick a card reading. Today, we are looking at what do people find fascinating about you. So this is pile number 4, Stairs of Male. So every time that this Yu-Gi-Oh card comes out, I'm always like attracted to just the winding, you know, down. And so it feels like there's so much to know about you. You feel like there's a lot of depth to you, pile number 4. Of course, we'll look in the cards, but that's really what I'm getting off with that first image. There's a lot of depth to you, and people are just fascinated with being fascinated with you because there's a lot to know. Like, you know, they're never fully done digging. There's always more to discover, is what I'm getting. So let's look at your astrology cards. Keep in mind, this is Vedic astrology. Placements could be different, but energy should read about the same. 7th house partners. So we got Libra energy here. Libra has been very popular throughout these readings. And so there's something extremely attractive about you first and foremost. So I think that that's something that people are fascinated by. And I feel like people are fascinated by the people that you know. Like maybe you know cool people, or you're in like a cool industry or something, where your partnerships play a major role into how people see you. You know, you are who you hang out with. Grand Cross Provoker. Okay. So let's see. This tells me that you probably have been in like some interesting or like turbulent relationships. Maybe you've been with a karmic, a twin flame. You've had some rocky soulmate relationships, but I feel like that's pretty fascinating and interesting. I don't know why. We'll see how it goes, but I feel like there's something about the relationships that you've countered through other people that people are fascinated with how you are, the way that you are today. And it could be a relationship with your parents. You know, I just imagine that there are people in your life who've really challenged you and forced you to grow in a way that people are unexpected. Yeah, South Node, life's debts. So K2. Excuse me. Like I said, there's a lot of mystery behind you. There's a lot of, you know, K2 is represented as the bottom half of the dragon. And so it doesn't have a head. So it's just like moving through life. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't have any direction. So I imagine that that's something that people find fascinating about you. Maybe you feel like that at times. Of course, we'll dig into it. I don't necessarily think it's a good or bad thing, but it just shows that like you came to this life with karma to pay off, specifically in your relationships, especially if you have K2 in the 1st house or K2 in the 7th house, K2 in the 3rd or the 11th house, the aspects. So there's something here about your social life. There's something here about like a winding road, like going down, like I hate saying downward spiral because I don't mean that to be insulting by any means, but I think that your relationships and your partnerships, and again, we have Cancer, I feel right here. So it could even be your upbringing, just your parents that have kind of lunged you into like downward spirals at points in time. I don't think that that defines who you are, but I think that you, pile 4, have to be very careful about who you line yourself up with. And that's some hot tea. That's some hot tea. And then we got Jupiter return benefits, but it all works out. Like I said, I just feel like there's something about your story. There's something about your past. Again, we got more 4th house energy. You know, it could be a mother figure, really strongly mother figure. We have Pisces and Sagittarius represented, Libra, Cancer. I just imagine that there were things that you've encountered in your life that's forced you to be a more spiritual person and a more spiritual individual for sure. Like, I just think that there's been, I feel like you're a guru of some sort, like a life counselor. I'm honestly getting like, I don't know if any of you keep up with Russell Brand at all, but you know, Russell Brand, a fascinating character. He was a celebrity and he was on drugs and he was a sex addict. I mean, anything that you could be addicted to, he was addicted to. Married Katy Perry for like 2 days. They got divorced. I don't know. It might have been longer than that. Let me not throw that out there. I'm not sure, but he was living wild. Eventually ended up getting remarried, has beautiful kids now, is sober as a gopher, and is like, listen, he's doing all the spiritual meditation stuff. He's really become a guru, a pretty cool news source, you know, all these other things. Complete 180 from who you thought that he was going to be. And so I imagine that you kind of carry that energy where there's something that was a complete 180 from who you were, where you started, the relationships that you've encountered to who you are now is very fascinating, Pal 4. Your story is fascinating in and of itself. All right, let's get into it. So justice. So the first card that we have out is the Justice card. Again, just back in that Libra. So you might have a lot of Libra energy, 7th house energy, or 1st house placements. But there's balance. Like I said, there's a balance that had to be struck in your life versus your life's karma and your life's purpose. And I feel like you've just been managing to get to a place in your life where you reach stability. I think because of the life that you've had, and again, if this doesn't make sense, Pile 4, then you're more than welcome to pick another pile, or this might not be the reading for you because this is coming through pretty clearly. But I feel like because of your past, or because of things that you've lost, or kind of the directionlessness that you've experienced in the past, it's made you, again, a very spiritual, philosophical person. And so you have a really grand perspective. You're able to see both sides of the coin. It's like you're able to look at that troubled teen, that troubled youth, and be like, maybe they're not so troubled. Maybe there's a problem there that happened through, like, you know, an unstable home. You're not quick to write people off, and I think that people find that very fascinating. You seem very objective, and even if you're in the middle of this process and you don't feel like you put both feet on the ground quite yet, my pile number 4 people, I definitely feel like you are going to be able to get your feet on the ground. It's not your life's purpose to suffer, in my opinion, particularly if you have experienced just a lot of loss. With K2 here, that's a lot of loss, with friendships, relationships, partnerships, but that's not who you are. You're meant to overcome any of those obstacles and really see things through. You know, this Justice card is very interesting. So got the 5 of Swords here, the Hermit card, and the 7 of Pentacles. Yeah, my pile 4 people really find it fascinating just how alone. I hate saying that, you know, you have to let me know if this resonates, but it feels like there's a part of you who has been alone or been like somewhat abandoned in different parts where you've been, you know, some of you guys have been homeless is really what I'm getting to. Like, I just feel like you've experienced loss of pleasure. You've experienced like loss of stability, or perhaps there's been times in life where you just didn't even have it, not even to lose it, you just didn't have it. So anything that you built, you had to build for yourself. I think the other thing that people find fascinating with you is like strong Virgo energy. You do spend a lot of time thinking. You do spend a lot of time you know, sitting with your thoughts and processing and analyzing your thoughts. I don't think that you're a very emotional person. So this keeps coming up in readings. You know, Virgos tend to be, they're really great with handling their emotions, and this keeps coming up in a reading. So perhaps you might have Virgo placement somewhere, but you're very critical when it comes to your emotions, and you always think that your emotions are something to learn from. Hence why you're able to get out of certain situations that other people would be defined by. I think that you're constantly rebuilding and restructuring yourself, my pile number 4 people. Granted, this has come at, you know, quite a price with the 5 of Swords here, Lords of Defeat. I think that you've experienced defeat, you've experienced being down, but you've thought about that and you're waiting for like the return of it all, because I do think that you're going to be an excellent teacher. People find that fascinating. The other thing is pretty interesting about you. We got Mars and Aquarius. So it does feel like, or is that Venus? That's Venus, excuse me. Yeah, I went my first mind. Venus and Aquarius. I think that you're able to really love unconditionally. That's a very fascinating part about you. It's like everything that you've experienced, you're able to love unconditionally, because I think that this lifetime was for you to learn how to make peace, justice card, and to like forgive people who have wronged you. Again, be it your mother, your lover, your ex-husband, your ex-wife. You know, I just think that you've had to be confronted with these conflicts to learn how to forgive and let go, to an extent. And I feel like this has taken a long time. I mean, this is like your life's journey, you know, to clear all this karma out, which is heavy. Not an easy thing to do. Not an easy thing to do at all. But I think that your story is just fascinating, and the way that you think about things is fascinating. To people in general, but I also don't think that a lot of people know your story. I don't think that you tell a lot of people where you come from. So the very few people that you tell, they're just fascinated, like, oh my gosh, I would have never known that you'd been through all that. I would have never known that you had those struggles, or that you had to overcome those things, you know. And the fact that you still smile, and the fact that you still, you know, are up and out, it is what it is. Sorry, there's like stuff happening outside my window. All right, so now let's look into your next. This is the 18 plus, the 9 of Swords. You might have some very full boobies, some nice breastises. So we got the 9 of Swords, the 6 of Wands, and the Justice card. This has come out. I love this. I love this. There's always been repeats, and out of all the 3 different decks that I use, there's been repeats. So that's really fascinating. That makes me really happy. It means that we're in sync. So yeah, again, the 9 of Swords over the 5 of Swords. You've experienced a lot of trauma, not to trigger you, but you've experienced, Pal 4, more trauma than most, more loss than most, but you come back and you rebound, and you've learned so much. I feel like you've done so much inner work with the 6 of Wands. You come back swinging. You have not let it define you. But again, the Justice card, this lifetime, you know, I'm getting some of you guys could easily be a Libra rising. Very difficult rising to have, especially in Vedic, because it flips your entire chart. So that really is like a karmic lifetime where you've come to reset past relationships. So if you have a Libra rising or a lot of Libra placements, that's what's happening here. But again, I feel like you have a lot of victory, and you have a lot of success, and you're really open to different like experiences, and you're open to hearing different people. I'm not being, you know, some of you guys, this might not mean everything, but I'm being really called to like the hood that's represented here. Some of you might even change religions completely from the time that you were younger. Like you might end up finding a spiritual calling that ends up that ends up speaking to you as an older person, and you end up completely changing your life, and you're just like, I was at rock bottom, and then I found God, and now I'm a teacher of some sort. You know, I really feel that way for some of you. That's not for all of you. But I really do think that, and it's specifically Islam, to be completely honest. It's specifically Islam. So if you've been interested, Pal 4, and looking into any of the Islamic teachings, then I would certainly do it. I would certainly read the Quran, because it feels, I've never gotten that message before. So that might be for one person, but you know, I'm not here to get hate speech and all the other stuff. I like religions. I find religions to be fascinating. I think people make religions ugly, but I think the stories, the metaphors, and all the other stuff are equally as valid, and we can't just take you know, some people that we don't understand and label a whole freaking movement and religion on not being able to understand it. So I have no issues. I'm extremely Catholic. I'm proud to be Catholic, but I also understand and celebrate that there is other knowledge to learn from other religions. So that's just my spiel on that. Before anybody gets crazy in the comment section like I'm not the one. I think that people can have their beliefs. Anyways, you might want to explore it. Regardless, it doesn't even have to be Islam specifically, but you might want to explore it. But I just imagine that, again, you take your anxieties, you overcome them, and you become a very balanced individual who's extremely objective. Some of you guys might even grow up to be lawyers or, you know, judges. You know, there's something a lot of here about law and legal things. So you might become a policymaker, a lobbyist, if that's something that interests you. But I feel like you're going to turn your situation into action. So it's just like, if you, for example, if you grow up in a turbulent house, or like, we'll just use like, if you grew up in foster care, then I feel like you grow up, you deal with everything that, you know, the trauma that is traumatic to grow up in foster care and instability. Then after, you know, you grow out of that, you end up being like, you know, there are things that I hated in my foster care, and so I'm going to go to law school and become a policymaker or be somebody on the board to be able to change some of these laws I have to make it better. Like, I feel like whatever your beginning was, you end up, you know, putting in work for it to be a different beginning for other people, if that makes sense. That's a lot of words, but I hope that makes sense. So now let's look at this. Heart, cross. Yeah, people are fascinated with your story. People are fascinated with your journey. And it's crazy because I really don't want to paint this picture, Pal 4, that you wear your trauma on your sleeve, because I don't think that you are. But I think when you actually let people in, people wouldn't even begin to know where to start to be like, oh my gosh, you are an incredible person. Your heart has been through so much. And again, there's something here about your faith. There's something here about your beliefs, your religion, your belief in God, the universe, whatever it is for you. There's something here that really inspires people, and they find that fascinating, because especially in the world that we live in now, you know, a lot of people, especially in American society, it's just like God is out the window. You know, people do not believe in anything right now. They're just out here, which I think is very scary, personally. And so that's why I think that you, Pal 4, something that's very fascinating about you is like you genuinely seem to do like a 180 when it comes to religion. You either go from like an atheist to like one of the biggest believers on the planet. And I don't think that you do it in a sense to like I don't think you turn into like this missionary and you're just like all about, you know, I don't think that you turn into like this quote unquote Jesus freak or what have you. I think that you genuinely just see the power of universal love. And that's how you, again, learn unconditional love, is because you've had to be forced to in this lifetime. And this was kind of like your karma. So it does feel very interesting. And it's so, I want to say something, but because I saw the next card, I'm going to say something and I'm going to contradict myself. So it feels like this lifetime is very lonely. It feels extremely lonely because all of this is very internal. The 7 of Pentacles, it feels like you're waiting for something, but like you don't ever know what you're fully waiting for. It just feels like you're just not necessarily wasting time, but like it's just like, what am I supposed to be doing? Like you end up in these lulls. Anytime that you're in that lull, it's a time for you to really reflect and honestly ask yourself and write. Some of you guys could be really great writers, specifically writing. You could have other creative passions for sure, but I'm really getting writing, journaling, and it could be personally writing. But that's what you're supposed to do in that time of aloneness, because I do feel like there's a lot of aloneness. There's a lot of anxiety that's been picked up through, you know, life. People don't understand you. But here we got soulmate. Yes, this is your soulmate. You are bound to find somebody who understands this journey. They might not have your same story, but they're fascinated about your story, and they want to encourage you in your shift and in your changes, you know. And it could be that a soulmate is what ends up putting you on this different path, especially when it comes to religion, if that makes sense for you. But you're not meant to be alone. Again, regardless of where you started out, we got 3 cards of marriage specifically when it comes to Libra, 7th house energy. So there will be a social contract for you to sign that involves another person. Even if you've been divorced, it looks like through just your change of faith and religion, you're going to attract different partners. So I do imagine that as lonely as life has been, as many times as you've been rejected, as many times as your relationships didn't work out, you will definitely have a soul contract with somebody to fulfill this life with someone. So don't doubt that for a second, regardless of how hard it is and how misunderstood you feel and how unstable you felt in the past. My biggest advice to you, Pal 4, would to definitely be to tune into a spirit and honestly a religion. People could disagree with me on that, but with the cross there, this feels very religious. This feels like something that is more concrete. Even Russell Brand, he has not picked a religion, but he knows a lot about all different religions. He hasn't picked one, but he turned to a very spiritual person. But I'm sure if he found a religion that really spoke to him, then I can't speak for him, but I think that religion can be a good tool to get to salvation. Whatever that means, okay? Let's get into it. And then we got look inside yourself, examine what is causing you to feel this way. So again, this seems like that hermit energy, that lull. If you're watching this reading, it seems like a double-edged sword that people find your story. I think people find your journey, who you are, who you're becoming, fascinating, absolutely fascinating, enthralled. Like, it feels like you could give a TED talk on your life, you know, specifically when you go through it. But right now it feels like you're meant to look inside yourself. You're meant to be in this hermit mode. You're meant to protect yourself. You're meant to sit with your thoughts and construct your own belief system about the world and how it moves and what you expect out of it, quite honestly. So yeah, very powerful reading, pile 4. You are definitely very different from the other 3 piles, so I'm happy that I did an extra pile 4 because this was so different from every other pile. So I thank you so much for joining me. Let's see. I was like, let's see. Can you give me a nice little 4-leaf clover in the comment section if this resonated? Because I feel like this is for good luck. You know, I feel like a 4-leaf clover, things are certainly going to change. Just be sitting in your own energy and reflect inside of yourself to see what you can do inside to change your outside. And I feel like that's going to be a massive key for your next chapter. So yeah, if this resonated, drop a little 4-leaf clover for good luck in this journey. But that's what I got for you, pile 4. Thank you so much for joining me. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. If you'd like to book a personal reading with me, you can find that information in the description box below. Follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and thank you so much for your participation, guys. I love you so much. Peace until next time.